False Start, a college football podcast for everyone and everyone else. I'm John Buhler, staff writer, fanside.com. I'm joined today by a man who knows who Matthew Broderick is, who knows who Jennifer Lawrence is, but I don't know if he's seen the movie No Hard Feelings just yet. Cody Williams, content director, fansided.com. I love vermouth. How are you? I've got a story about
Inc-
that.
Incredible stuff right there. I've seen the movie No Hard Feelings. Pretty decent comedy for this day
Yeah.
and age, quite frankly. Honestly, that cover of Maneater that he plays on the
Yes.
piano, like, got stuck in my head for like 2 weeks straight. Like, it's quite good. But yeah, man, I'm doing good, man. How are you doing?
Pretty good. So this ties back to the podcast. So after playoff Goldilocks, the Arizona State podcast was starving and I was kind of hungry, so we had to go get some food. We went to an establishment down the street that's dedicated to 80s and 90s sitcom fathers, and one of the guys at the bar was the Vermouth Kid.
Oh, no
She looks
way.
over, she's like, he's in something. And I'm like, I'm trying to like get my card back because the bartender was very 50 Shades of Awful, basically, is how I would say it. It was just not happening.
Not tending the bar, is what you would say.
I think he's just bad at every facet of his life. But either way, like the Vermouth guy was back there, and he looked like he was an actor that was like skinny, dark-haired guy that could play a character about 3 years younger than him. That's kind of what he was doing, and I'm like, Vermouth, that's who it was.
Oh yeah. I mean, basically the Christopher Mintz-Plasse of our generation.
I've got a McLovin story later. I told you.
Okay.
I mean, I told you he's partying at Delta Sig before. I
Oh,
told you.
100%. Yeah, absolutely.
McLovin life here. But yes, we obviously false started here today, but we're going to do some first and 15 with some from Ward Manuel's manual. Our delayed reactions to the college football playoff rankings from Tuesday night. Obviously, it's Thursday morning. The sun's killing Cody. It's killing me a little less, but it's killing me softly. I like the Fugees.
The Fugees, baby. Shouts to Lauren Hill.
Like when Zach Galifianakis is in that sitcom or that special, he's like, me and my brother Seth, we had that one Fuji song we got along to. There's two. So which Fuji song is it?
You got one and two to pick from, man.
It was a lot of Fugees and Funyuns with the rankings here. So I don't know if you really were able to catch what I put in there for my too hot, too cold, just right here. The big team that I think everybody is having some concerns about, really the big two is Texas and Indiana. That's probably the best place to start, I would say. So we've got some stuff from our commenters. We got a new subscriber. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very
Um,
much.
so yes, essentially everybody's kind of looking at Texas. It's like I'm like, yeah, they should be three, but at the same time, I think everyone's like, come on.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I don't have a problem with Texas there because they haven't lost the luster to do that. Like they earned their spot there. And like granted, yes, it is soft, but I mean like you look right behind them and it's Penn State. And Penn State is just as soft of a resume at this point as well. They're just both one-loss teams. The good news is with Penn State, I think our big qualm with the Nittany Lions right now is they have no more real opportunities to prove themselves. They have no more real
Right.
opportunities to do anything about it. And so like Penn State's probably going to stay there undeservingly. Texas has the A&M game. If Texas beats Texas A&M, then this like that conversation starts to look really stupid because like they'll have proven it. Like their only slip up will be against a Georgia team who, yes, they had to run the gauntlet, which is why they have two losses, but like some of the best wins in the country. Like you can't really fault them for losing that game, and that's your only loss in the season. I think that makes you probably pretty deserving of being that in the top four if you were to win the SEC championship game. So like there's no real I appreciate the fact that Texas has the chance to prove itself. I do think the real question is we've seen the committee like not be afraid to drop teams pretty
Oh yeah.
substantially depending on what results happen. We saw it with BYU this past week. We saw it with Georgia, frankly, when they lost to Ole Miss. So like we've seen the committee not be afraid to do that. If this Texas team loses to Texas A&M, I'm not reinventing the wheel here, but like it's going to be interesting to see if the committee drops them all the way out of the playoff field because I wonder if the committee would frankly have the stones to do that. Like, do I think Texas would be deserving at that point? Probably not. But I don't know if the committee has the stones to drop a brand like Texas out of the playoff like that.
Well, I think the good news is there's another high quality SEC brand to take their place. So they're not going to
Yeah.
be in utter dire straits there. Yes, they'd probably prefer Texas to be in over A&M or Ole Miss. I think Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee are all massive, and you're pretty much going to
Yeah.
get a huge number regardless. But yes, you're absolutely right, though. Like Texas has an opportunity to earn its way into the playoff, beyond just being last man standing if they beat A&M. So one of our comments here, I believe it was from Monday's show, Tull Farley, basically tried to compare what Texas and Texas A&M have done against three common opponents, which are Florida, Mississippi State, and Arkansas. And across the board, I think Texas has beaten all three of those teams by like a much larger margin. 10 points to 4 over Arkansas, 32 to 13 over Florida, 23 or 10 over Mississippi State. And he also threw in this comment, though, that I think Indiana beat Michigan by 5 points, and then Texas beat Michigan by 19 points. So
Hmm.
again, like that provides some level of clarity to this. It kind of just shows that like maybe Texas is better than what people are saying, and maybe Indiana is has less margin for error than what we expect.
No, I agree with that completely because like I mean personally the way I'm looking at it, I think Texas is going to beat Texas A&M. I don't trust this Texas A&M team, but it's still going to be a quality win when you get it. But like I think this Texas team where they fall is even if they end up as the SEC champion, like if they were to beat Alabama or whoever in the SEC championship game, like I still think this team might not be a surefire national championship contender. Like I think that they may not have that ceiling because of the inconsistencies of Quinn Ewers in this offense. But I do think that this defense is definitely damn good enough to stop whatever Texas A&M wants to do. I think that this offense is talented enough to put up more points to Texas A&M. So like I think Texas is going to beat Texas A&M already. But when I look at this, when I look at like how they compare to an Indiana, I like Indiana has blown out everyone they've faced except for Michigan. And like we know that. And you look at that Michigan game, they definitely turtled up a little bit in there. Like they got out to a lead and it was like, okay, we can't blow this. Like that our perfect season's on the line. Hoping that doesn't happen this week against Ohio State, but it's something, to keep an eye on. But I do think that if Indiana were to lose to Ohio State, it would be very equivalent to Texas losing to Georgia. But much like Penn State, they don't have another opportunity to add a quality win to that resume. Like it's just, you are what you are with Indiana. And given what we've seen them do with BYU, with Miami, and these teams that were undefeated, but were still being kind of like depressed a little bit behind Oregon, behind Ohio State, behind Texas. It makes me wonder if this game, like, they can say 97% all they want for Indiana as a chance to make the playoff. I legitimately wonder if they lose this Ohio State game if they're out of the playoff.
Yeah, I think if you Texas and this is all tying together, believe it or not, which is crazy. So like I would say a two-loss Texas team and a one-loss Indiana are in that same cluster of teams with like
Hmm.
Tennessee, probably the ACC loser between Miami and SMU, and I think Boise State gets in over that, but like they're kind of in that same like rankings spot. You're looking at essentially the 10 to 15 range is probably what I would say.
Yeah.
Like it all comes down to how badly Indiana would lose to Ohio State. If they win, they're in. It doesn't unless they lose to Purdue, which is again back to your point. There's no real resume booster there. That's the worst team in the Power Five. Penn
Yeah.
State's got a halfway decent one versus Minnesota, but like if they lose, they're completely out. Maryland's
Yeah.
cooked. And then obviously
It's really a no-win proposition for
mhm,
Penn State in that capacity. Like, yeah,
yes.
it's not a resume booster if you win that game, but it is a resume killer if you lose that game.
Same thing with Tennessee with Vanderbilt. I mean, UTEP's not going to do
Hmm.
much either, and then you basically would have Vanderbilt going 6-6. It's a double-edged sword there. But yeah, I'm kind of right there with you. I think probably the best way that's kind of gotten my head around the Texas A&M game coming up here in a little bit is I believe that Texas A&M has higher variance than Texas,
Yeah.
and I believe Texas is probably the most steady team in the ICC, which is why they're ranked. They've got a really high floor. The ceiling's high-ish,
Yeah.
but I would also say that like Texas A&M's highest is still higher than like the floor of Texas, meaning that they can get caught, meaning that an upset can happen. It's
Yeah.
probably like 20, 25%, maybe 35, 40 if you want to be really optimistic given the rivalry nature of it all. But like Texas is going to be favored. Texas is probably going to win, but there's a chance that AM could do it.
No, 100%. I'm not ruling out the idea that Texas A&M could do it because like Texas A&M has proven they can do it, quite frankly. Like I think that Texas A&M has had some good games, but I mean, you look at Texas A&M's resume and like, is it really all that impressive? Like your signature win is over that win over LSU, and LSU is no longer in the top 25. LSU is
No.
looking and like you got dog walked by South Carolina. You didn't get manhandled by Notre Dame, but in a sense, you kind of did. Like you got into a ball game that was frankly the style that you want to play under Mike Elko, and you got beat in the first game of the season. Let's not forget that either. So like Texas A&M's resume is not exactly the most impressive thing in the world. So like I think that's where my trepidation comes with like everyone's like wanting to depress Texas because of their lack of resume. And I'm like, okay, but you're comparing, like, you're basically saying, okay, so they're going to lose to A&M, a team that also hasn't really done anything that impressive this season.
No, A&M's got a little bit better, but not like considerably. It's I would say like in terms of resume, I mean between Georgia and Alabama is probably the two best in the ICC with what they've had to do. But
Yeah,
obviously
100%.
they've got two losses there, and Ole Miss actually has two quality wins because we keep forgetting South Carolina's a quality win now too, and
Yeah,
that's
and
a team
they,
that
as I've said before, they beat the ass out of South Carolina.
they sure did. Kind of moving on to like another sort of question we got. Steve Mack had two that were really interesting. Kind of comparing Texas to Colorado and Miami. Again, I think that's something we haven't necessarily put our brains in. I think it's interesting because like these are all three teams that could get first round buys, but like there is some sort of question of like, has Texas and Miami been tested? Does Colorado have enough of a runway to really do something? And I guess maybe the way to phrase this is I think we're both dubious of Miami and Colorado winning a playoff game. Um, I mean, maybe I'm not saying that Texas could win. Like, I feel like it's closer to that than maybe even we even realize because like we just don't know. I feel that like if Georgia or Alabama or Ole Miss I feel like Notre Dame could win multiple playoff games too. I just feel like they've kind of got some sort of
Yeah.
thing going for
I
them. I
mean,
think Texas might be closer to Miami and Colorado than we think.
so I struggle with this. Like, if I'm power ranking those three by their ability to win a playoff game, I would actually probably go Texas one, Colorado two, and then three Miami because I think Colorado, their defense in the pass rush, the way it's currently playing, I do have some faith that like they could potentially make some plays. You also have you guys like Travis Hunter on the outside that, you know, can make a play, can turn a game pretty quickly. I don't know, like Miami's pretty beat up in the secondary right now, and I haven't trusted the defense all year anyway. So like I just have real doubts about Miami. I do think that one thing you said about Texas earlier kind of puts them in a different bucket for me, where I think Miami and Colorado can lose to just about any team that's going to be in the playoff field at any point. Whereas, and no matter what game they play, like their variance is enough. But you said Texas is probably the steadiest team in the SEC, and what that to me means is if you play Texas and you give them your B minus game, they're going to beat you because they're better at being their B minus is better than your B minus. But if they get a team's A plus game, then their A plus is not as good as as the opponent's A plus. And so like that's where Texas falls into me. Whereas like most of these teams B minus games can beat Colorado and Miami most days.
I think that's fair. It's again we really need to see this A&M game here in 2 weeks to really
Yeah.
have it was weird like up until the Georgia game we just had no feel on Tennessee and now we
Yeah.
do. And we really don't have much of a feel or as much of a feel as we would need on like Texas and Indiana because they're finally going to play somebody who would essentially be in the playoff, and then we'll know. I don't know. I feel like you got to see it or something.
No, you absolutely do. I will say that my other like macro takeaway from the playoff rankings is that like what we all thought was going to happen, or what at least what I thought coming was going to happen coming into the year is they've shaped it up perfectly for that. The Big 12 and ACC are getting one team in. Like it's there's no other way that we're going other than that.
It was interesting. Like I predicted the 12 team field like exactly, but I think as we were going through it, I don't think anybody was actually happy with what this was. You're just like, it just
No.
kind of feels. it just kind of feels like you went to a chain restaurant and they messed up every course along the way, and the commercials really sold you, man.
Yeah, 100%. And I let me ask you this because I've been debating this. Do you think Boise, like, if like results kind of hold like serve from here on out, and this isn't really play a chaos scenario, which we will get to in just a minute, but like, do you think Boise actually has a real chance of being the number 4 seed? Because I've started to put on my Cynic hat a little bit, and I'm becoming a little dubious of that.
I'm becoming dubious because that looked really weird in there. It works today, but I would venture to guess that, like, look, if Colorado wins the Big 12, they're going to be like ranked 10, and then they're going to go
Yeah.
above them. That's kind of same thing with BYU. That's essentially what I've got. Whereas like the ACC winner is going to be 8, 9, 10 between either Miami or SMU. That's just how it's going to be ranked. So
Hmm.
it's going to be it's gonna it'll sort itself out. Like you would need a lot more chaos for that to happen. One thing that Joey Galloway did say on the show was UNLV doesn't is not the team that's projected to go to the Mountain West Championship. It's Colorado State
It's
who hasn't
Colorado
lost
State.
a conference game yet. And I mean, I think the Rams are 7-3. I think that's how it is. But like
Yeah,
they're
I think they had a brutal non-con and then came like because they played Colorado in the
yeah.
non-con, and I'm trying to remember. Let me actually look it up who else
I think
they
I played.
played.
I think I got smoked by Texas week one. I think if I'm not mistaken, that was one
I
too.
think you might be right. Yeah, and let's see, Colorado State football. Da. Whoa, that's 2023. Yeah, so they got smoked by Texas. Oh, I apologize. They did beat Northern Colorado in the non-con, and then they lost to Oregon State, which is technically non-conference, which that loss looks awful, which is probably why they're not in the top 25,
Yeah.
quite frankly.
Yeah, I was trying to do the math here. I'm like, you've got 3 games left, but like you're only playing like 7 conference games. Is that how it's going to work with the Mountain West? Like you only play 7 conference games this year or something?
I guess so. I don't know. It doesn't, I'm confused. The whole Pac-2, like wrench being thrown in this really makes it all convoluted.
God, it's some Eddie Brock Venom nonsense.
It really is, dude. I don't understand it even a little bit.
But any outside of Texas, Indiana, Boise State, Colorado, any other kind of larger thoughts you have about the playoff rankings that we need? Also, why is Mizzou ranked? I'm so mad about that.
You know what? They played tough, man. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. I don't get it at all. But hey, SEC bias, I guess. Honestly, I really don't have a whole lot of takeaways. I guess I got after talking with Reed Wallach on Tuesday on the Stacking the Box show during the day before the rankings came out, he was convinced that Georgia was going to leapfrog back ahead of like Alabama and Ole Miss after the way they beat Tennessee. I was dubious of that, and I guess like, but it did have me thinking like, okay, well, how are we going to value this thing? But it's very clear that they're just valuing the head to head. Like you think Alabama has a better resume than Ole Miss, and both Alabama and Ole Miss beat Georgia, so you have to slot Georgia in behind them.
I firmly believe that when they do the final rankings, Georgia will be behind Alabama and ahead of Ole Miss. I believe
Okay.
that because they're still honoring the head-to-head. And then I think, you've got 2 games where like if so I would say like Ole Miss's game versus Florida is the same as Georgia's versus Georgia Tech. It's like it's not you can't lose it, but if you win it, it's not going to help you. And then obviously Mississippi State and UMass are like the same sort of bucket too. At the end of the day, they'll look at the head to head, but then they'll be like, okay, what else have you done? It all really comes down to if South Carolina beats Clemson in Palmetto, that might keep Ole Miss ahead of Georgia. It's going to be very close, but if they both go 10-2, it seems like it's mathematically impossible for either of them to miss out.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you there. Like I don't think if you take care of business, which you should, if you're Georgia and Ole Miss, like you should be locked in. I do think the one thing that could potentially beyond the South Carolina Clemson game, which would, like you said, strengthen that win for Ole Miss. I do think the one thing that could hurt Georgia potentially making that jump is if Vandy beats Tennessee, because then that's going to weaken that Tennessee win.
And then if Texas A&M beat Texas, that would also
Yeah,
hurt them too. And but I'm trying to think everybody, but then again, like LSU might lose out, and that looks really bad for Ole
yeah.
Miss too. Kentucky's not good.
No, Kentucky's not good.
And then
But
Wake's
I mean,
bad.
let's be clear. Georgia probably should have lost to Kentucky though. So
Yeah.
like,
I mean, yeah, a lot of people should have lost to Kentucky this year, but only like 3 teams did. This is
I
false
know.
start. I guess the last other thing here is with all of this, the BYU thing. It's just so it goes to show that like there are teams that are up there in the top 12 or so that the committee is just dying to drop. That would be
100%.
Indiana, that would be Penn State, that would be Notre Dame. And I don't think we want to drop Miami again. Indiana, Notre Dame, Penn State. I'm missing another one. I don't think it's Boise. Maybe it's just those three. Texas.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Texas to some degree. I think that they're again in a little bit of a different category because they are Texas, but like I do think that there are like we saw it with Miami, we saw it with BYU. We've seen them not respect SMU to this point. So like basically if you don't have SEC next to your name, like and like you're not Ohio State and Oregon in the Big Ten, like they're just waiting for you to slip up. Like that's what it feels like.
Yeah, I mean Texas doesn't suck, even though Oklahoma does suck right now.
Oklahoma does suck, yes. Look, man, I this Oklahoma team is infuriating because like you look at some of the bones of this team, they shouldn't be as bad as they are. They really shouldn't.
You've hired a Ben Crane to be your head coach, and that's what happened.
Yeah,
And,
exactly.
and yeah, they got Don Corleone calling the shots there in Norman, man, basically.
100%.
And I don't know if there's a hill in Norman, Oklahoma, but I'm gonna fall off of Salisbury Hill with some Peter Gabriel because Cody's gonna take a sledgehammer to my brain and break it like we need to, running over me with a steam train.
Right in
He's
your
gonna,
eyes, baby.
yeah, right in the eyes, shock the monkey. Red rain pouring down, which is just blood, apparently.
That's right. Oh my God. So I've got two good ones cooked up for you today. I told you before the show. The first one is a lot of results, so pay attention. And the second one is a lot fewer results, but it's probably harder to figure out. So
Okay.
we'll start with the first one, which was SEC centric. Next week, Texas A&M beats Texas. Tennessee loses to Vandy. Texas A&M then beats Alabama in the SEC championship game. Obviously, that means Texas A&M is going to get a top four seed. Let's for this just to make this easy, like to give you more information. Miami beats SMU in the ACC championship game. Colorado beats BYU in the Big 12. Ohio State beats Indiana. Oregon beats Ohio State in the rematch. With all of that happening, where do you see Texas? Where do you see Alabama? Where do you see Georgia? Where do you see Ole Miss? And where do you see Tennessee?
And we'd also assume Notre Dame wins out too.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, so your Oregon wins the Big Ten, right? Is that what
Yeah,
it is? So
they're the number one seed
they're
pretty
the number
much.
one seed. Number two, number two seed. Number two seed's probably. I think number two is Miami. I think that they would probably
Probably.
give. I would probably give them two there.
Yeah.
Three, you probably got to go. Three, you got to go A&M,
Yeah.
and then four, Colorado is. I think
Okay.
that's good. And then Boise will. Okay, so five. Okay, yay, five. Your number five seed, Jesus. Number five seed's probably Notre Dame.
That's tough. That's tough for everyone involved.
Your number six seed is probably Penn State.
Yeah, I do wonder in that if they just keep Ohio State there ahead of Penn State because they do have the head-to-head over Penn State. And like again, your two losses would be to Oregon. So like how hard are you going to really penalize them for that? I suppose it would probably look like what the Big Ten championship game looked like in that scenario.
Okay, so you know what? Let's put Ohio State six. Let's put Penn State seven. Eight would be eight would probably be Georgia, I would think, at that situation. Nine, probably Ole Miss, I think, would be there. 10, I think you'd probably go. I'm down there with the exact same teams. It's so awful. I hate this. 10, how close is the Indiana loss to Ohio State?
Let's say they cover. They're 13 and a half point dogs, so they cover.
Okay, they lose by 10 points. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So I'd probably put Indiana at 10. I would
Okay.
say, I think that's fair. And then 11, you're dealing with Texas, Tennessee.
in Alabama.
In Alabama for the
A
last one.
three-loss Alabama
A
team.
three-loss Alabama team. And then what does Tennessee wait, Tennessee loses to Vandy, right? Or they
Tennessee's pretty much out. Yeah.
okay, so they're not in this. So okay. That makes these so it's A&M versus Alabama. No, Texas versus Alabama for the last spot
Yeah,
here.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. At that point, I still think you put Alabama in over Texas because I feel that you can't punish them for going further, playing a much more difficult schedule, and you couldn't get anything done. The differences between like Indiana in that situation is like they played as well as they could have versus Ohio State in a hostile environment. I don't know, is A&M Texas A&M is that in College Station or Austin?
That's
Do you
in College
remember?
Station. That's in College
Okay.
Station.
Because if it wasn't Austin, it would be absolutely no, because like you've
Yeah.
lost your two games at home to Georgia and A&M. I would say that Alabama would get it over Texas in that situation.
I
And
think
then
you're probably right, but it is going to be interesting because like I think that is the great unknown when we're talking about the playoff right now is are these conference championship games losses for some of these teams going to be held against them? Like, I personally don't think they should be. I'm right there with you. Like, I think if Alabama gets there and they play a competitive game, which I assume it would be because it's Alabama, Alabama doesn't really get blown out. And I think that if it's like it's really hard to penalize them, but at the same time, we don't know what the committee is going to do in that capacity. And it's like you said earlier, like when it comes to, the name on the helmet, Texas and Alabama, they're both going to draw. So it doesn't actually matter to them. And so like I wonder what they'll value in that spot. So just wanted to see what you thought about it and if we got a little bit of chaos still to come in the SEC.
I would just say, like, with how this year is shaking out, if a team loses its third game in the SEC championship, that's the only way a three-loss team can get in. And I would say it's more likely to happen if that were to be Alabama than Texas A&M, which I think are really the only. I mean, Georgia's got virtually no shot of getting in there. I don't think Ole Miss has any shot. It's basically Alabama, Texas, and Texas A&M who can play there. I think.
Georgia shot is Alabama losing to Oklahoma or Auburn, which would be the funniest possible outcome. But
Okay, but like for example, like if Georgia were to lose that game and they would be the same bucket as Alabama, like they
yeah,
probably get in, whereas A&M may not.
yeah, no, I think I'm with you there. All right. Now we're going a little Big Ten centric, and this is definitely chaos because I'm not sure at least one of these results is going to happen. Most likely two of these results are not going to happen. But regardless, let's play it out. Ohio State beats Indiana. We'll say Ohio State covers this one. They win 14, they win by 14. Then they turn around and lose to Michigan. Do you know what that means for the Big Ten championship game?
Would that mean Penn State goes?
Penn State, Oregon in the Big Ten championship game, which James Franklin wins the big one, beats Oregon in the Big Ten championship game. You've got Penn State as a top four seed. Assume chalk the rest of the way. That means Miami wins the ACC, Notre Dame wins out, BYU wins the Big 12, Texas wins the SEC over Alabama. What seed do you put Indiana in? What seed do you put Ohio State in? And what seed do you put Oregon in?
Okay, number one seed, I would say would be Texas. I would say that would be number one. It would just edge out two, which would be Penn State. I would say that that would
What a
feel
world.
that is so gross. And then three would be, let's say, okay, three would be Miami, and then four would be BYU, I would say.
Yeah,
Which but the chalk component with the Big 12 gets so muddy because I think Colorado's the betting favorite, but BYU's got
ranked
only got the one loss.
higher.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's convoluted. I mean, we should get some more clarity this week with some of the Big 12 games we have played
oh yeah,
being played.
definitely with some BYU Arizona State, man.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So number five is very easy. Number five would be Oregon. I don't think that there's really any debate there.
Yeah.
I would say six would probably still be Notre Dame, I think, at that point, because they'd be 11-1 with a quality win over Army. That would be good. Seven. So who does Texas beat in the SEC championship? That'd be Alabama.
Alabama, yeah.
Okay. Seven at that point. Seven's probably Seven's probably Georgia at that point, I would say.
Yeah, I think that's probably right.
Eight would be eight. I would probably actually put. I think eight would be Ole Miss. I think it's
That sounds right.
close. It's
Yeah.
nine. I think nine would be Indiana. I think maybe this is much
Mm,
harder.
yeah, this is where it gets really where you like
Okay, okay,
how
let's backtrack. Okay, seven's Georgia. I'm missing somebody very. I'm wondering like Ohio State's going to be pretty far down. That's kind of what I'm getting
yeah.
at. And
I was gonna say they did beat Indiana, so you do wonder if they honor that head to head or not. But I don't. But like Indiana would obviously have the better record.
there's a chance that Boise might actually go up higher in this situation, which I don't know if that crossed your mind yet.
Oh yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Yeah,
seven Georgia, eight Ole Miss. Screw it. Put Boise at nine. Let's put
let's do
Boise at
it.
nine.
Hell
Boise at
yes.
nine. I'd put Boise at nine. 10 would be Ohio State. 11 would be Indiana. 12 Tennessee.
Oh no, you haven't said Alabama, so we'll put Alabama in at the 12.
12, yeah, Alabama, Tennessee, somewhere like that. I mean, but Alabama has three losses over Tennessee. So I mean, I think maybe that's exercise like Tennessee just has no shot at getting in.
I mean, honestly, I don't think they deserve to be at this point, but that's just me.
Yeah, but in that situation does it actually gives Boise get higher than 12?
I think it's absolutely possible because like the Michigan loss is going to be bad. Like that's not a good thing. But while it's also a bad loss for Ohio State, it helps strengthen the Texas win over that. So like you get like it would be a really weird result in all the things that would transpire. And like obviously the most unlikely part is James Franklin winning the Big Ten championship game over Oregon. But like I if that were to happen, like if they like Penn State's talented enough to do that. I don't think that they have the coaching to be able to do that, particularly the head coach and the program culture. But like I do think that like if you get these specific results, like it's gonna really throw a wrench into everything that happens here. I honestly wonder if in that scenario, since it would make Ohio State's resume worse, if they just drop Indiana out of there and just put Alabama and Tennessee both in the playoff.
Yeah, you're at that point because you're essentially saying Alabama, Ohio State, Indiana, and Tennessee are all vying for like essentially three spots at this point. This would be very interesting because it creates some chaos in the Big Ten, like it blows it up. And the SEC's had that multiple times over.
Yeah,
This is some I'm not gonna say what place that is, but like where one place is palatial, the other place is rubble, and this is a false start.
that's right. Oh my God.
That one really did break my brain. I did not was not ready for that. I did not see that coming, just like you didn't see that Martini Rossi coming earlier. No free
That's
ads, but
right. No, sir, we need the vermouth.
but I don't know I mean if Ryan Day loses to Michigan, they don't make the playoff. He gone, right?
Oh, he gone. And not eventually either. He just gone.
Yeah, so we got some more people with some he gone, and it's getting hot in here. We're probably gonna end up basically doing this segment like pretty much every show until like January because this is just the nature of everything. It's gonna be so transactional. Talk Portal to me will start popping up here very soon. Because again, we don't have much more time left for with Admiral Akbar. We got basically this week, next week, and then the week after that, and then that kind of goes away. And then Antonio becomes bowling.
Oh yeah, he's got his kingpin on. He's ready to rock.
He's got his air raid vehicle.
That's right.
But so we had three more coaches get fired since we last talked, and one opted for retirement. Don Brown is out at UMass, where he was a legend previously under multiple tenures. That's tough. Probably the best coach in program history.
Yeah.
Tom Herman is out in Florida Atlantic. I don't think we're ever going to see him again. He's going to get really into the 60s, like Bertram.
That was a wonderful pull. God.
Best line of that movie, dude.
100%.
And then pour one out for Biff Poggi in the meat sleeves.
Mm,
What's Charlotte doing? It's
I'm hurt.
yeah, Charlottean football is not doing well.
Hey, you know what? I mean, my favorite part of this is that Charlotte and FAU play each other this week. So it's the interim coach bowl that we get because of these firings.
And then after I saw the Vermouth guy, the Arizona State podcast, and I went and got like one more drink, and we saw Central Michigan was really getting fired up, celebrating winning a trophy. I forgot who they were playing. I was kind of more intrigued by like the other MAC game with Miami, Ohio, and NIU. But apparently, what Jim McElwain is gonna, he's jumped the shark and he's gonna go down to where his friends are, and he's gonna go into retirement down in Florida.
Friends in low places, I guess, you know.
He's definitely related to the guy who founded Jimmy John's, who hunts like exotic beasts.
100%. They've for sure been on a trip together.
I bet they have matching Dan Marino jerseys they wear too.
100%. Oh my God.
Yeah, that's I've got takes about that. I'm sure I've told you about what I think of people who wear Dan Marino
Oh,
jerseys.
100%. No, absolutely. So,
Um,
I mean, honestly, did any of these shock you? Because, like, I think Don Brown, just because of his tenure, was probably like the only thing. Like, what do you expect at UMass? But like, Tom Herman was failing miserably at FAU. Biff Poggi, I mean, it was a weird hire we love him to death, but like, it was a weird hire when it was made. And so, like, the fact that it didn't work out isn't really shocking. So, like, like, of the three firings, like, Brown's the only one that even mildly surprised me. But at the end of the day, also like UMass is terrible. So like you probably do need a change.
does he get to go to Georgia? I'm really sorry, Don. Uh, Tyson Pumacha does, so that's great as well.
That's
I don't even know
right.
if he's playing or whatever, but
I
like
think he's hurt now, actually, again for the a billionth time.
for sure, yeah, that's tough sledding there. Tom Herman felt untenable. I feel that like he caught on fire trying to put out the fire that Willie Taggart started. I
Hmm.
I heard there was rumors about Ray Lewis potentially being tied to that job. That would be
FAU basically
insane.
came out and said absolutely effing not.
And then the Bitpoji one was the one that really kind of caught me by surprise. Was like, first off, 2 cycles ago, he was the first hire. Like they're like, we're
Yeah.
gonna hire Jim uh Jim Harbaugh's right-hand man off the Michigan staff, the guy who was coaching at like I'm blanking on the Catholic school in Maryland where he got first connected with John Harbaugh, but he'd been there forever.
Yeah, I don't know the name of it. I know what you're talking about, but I have no idea.
Maybe it's I'm just gonna call it St. Francis because that's his birth name. St. Francis
That's
St.
right.
Francis
St.
Xavier
Francis
Bitpoji.
Bitmoji.
But at that point, like you didn't give him any chance. Like it was a weird hire at the time, but like I I don't know. I don't really know what direction any of these teams go in. Same with Central Michigan. I do feel that at least McElwain had some self-awareness, and he's like, you know what? This is getting harder right now. The coaching's really leveled up here in the MAC. I think was it was it was Tim Lester the guy or no he's the guy on a Charlotte staff I think that if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, someone's
I
like,
think
yeah,
that's right.
I love me some Biff. I'm gonna play hard for him.
Tim Lester, Tim Lester was at Western and then went to
Iowa briefly.
Iowa. Yeah, he's still at Iowa right now. No more Brendan Sullivan. That's a tough beat for him.
Also, he not gone. Mac Brown's coming back. I'm gonna let you. I mean, like at some point, it's starting to become like some Jim Boeheim, Bobby Bowden, Stockholm syndrome that he's putting your fan base through. And I'm so sorry. It's the same thing with Iowa.
No,
It needs to it needs to end.
it's the same thing, and like I don't want to disrespect Mac Brown because we've had some good seasons under Mac Brown. Like it's not a like institutional failure, but it is like Mac Brown is at his ceiling at what he's going to be able to get this program to at this age. Like I just think that he's just not like Stockholm syndrome is a really great way to put it because like he's in a spot where you can't like it seemed like we were turning toward a spot where like you could force a like a mutual retirement basically like hey we want to fire you but you can go ahead and retire and like North Carolina has a chance to win 8 games this season so like if you go 8-4 with this North Carolina team like you can't really reasonably fire him but like 8-4 is overachieving. And like if you keep running this back and you keep spinning the wheels, like you're not going to overachieve every year. You're going to underachieve and you're going to end up with like back-to-back 3-4 win seasons. That's where this is going to be headed if you don't make a change in the near future.
This feels a little bit different than what Dave Aranda did at Baylor. I feel like Dave Aranda's like, I made a mistake, I corrected. It's getting better. They're
Mhm.
figuring it out. It seems like it's going to work there at least for another year or so. Who was the flavor of the week that you wanted to replace Mac Brown with? Like, who was the guy like entering this past weekend? You're like, who's the next head coach of North Carolina Tar Heels? Who was the guy that you wanted to be?
I mean, my top two on my hot board would still be Jamie Chadwell and still be Andy Kotelnicki. Like, I think that, yes, I think Kotelnicki probably needs a little more seasoning, but I think that's a risk North Carolina has to take if you're North Carolina because you're not like, if you go another year where Penn State's offense still looks like it keeps improving and looks better, Kotelnicki's going to be looking at bigger jobs in North Carolina, and like you're going to be out of that running. So like this is would be your sweet spot to go after a hot hire like that. So like that would still be my top two hot board.
I have no feel for really of the any other openings other than FAU. I think Charlie Weiss Jr. may go there.
I like that. And I do one thing I do wonder about with FAU is like that program outside of the Lane Kiffin years has like traditionally been a pretty damn tough job. It like honestly making it look harder than it should be because geographically like you're in a pretty nice spot to where you can kind of you're not going to get the highest end of recruits, but you can get the middle to bottom of the barrel and then develop. And like Kiffin was obviously good at that. He could help close some of those gaps with scheme. Tom Herman, we thought might be able to do that based on what we saw previously, but his star is quite. I mean, it's interesting that you talked about picking up the pieces of what Willie Taggart left. Like Tom Herman's kind of on the Willie Taggart trajectory right now. Like you go to a big name Power Five program, absolutely fail miserably, and then try to mire around in other G5 spots and keep failing, and you just keep getting worse to where you're going to end up as a assistant on the Ravens staff eventually.
Yeah, think about this. He left Houston a very tough spot. Major Applewhite couldn't do much of that. And he's got South almost bowling, which
Yeah.
was a very difficult thing with Kane Womack going to Alabama. Maybe it wasn't Major Applewhite. It was a Tom Herman problem.
Yeah, I mean it's absolutely entirely possible that it was a Tom Herman problem and we just did not realize that.
I know. Also, Mike McIntyre. I don't know if that's a lot
That's
of that's gonna end pretty soon.
yeah, let Pitbull coach the Panther.
You have to have a college degree. Dale.
Dale.
I think that's what now like 11 or 12 jobs in the group of five that have opened up, and so there's still not a power four. And I wrote
Mhm.
about this for fanside.com, and wonder if you deviate from me a little bit here, but I tried to figure out like when's the first P4 guy gonna get fired? And I listed out, I think, 11 names that I think could, there may be more. Again, like the Brian Kelly and Ryan Day could throw a wrench in everything.
Yeah.
I thought that there's only three coaches that could get fired after this week. That would be Mike Locksley if Maryland loses to Iowa and they're 4-7. I could see Ryan Walters being out if Purdue gets smoked by Michigan State, and I think there's a pretty good chance that they may let Gus Malzahn go if they lose to West Virginia. I ended up settling on Gus Malzahn. I think it's really bad.
I think I don't think you're wrong necessarily. I think I would probably lean Loxley. And the reason I say that is because you compare the Maryland job to Purdue, you compare it to UCF. Maryland's probably by far the most attractive of those three jobs, in my
Yeah,
opinion. And if we're like, it seems like the way we're trending right now, the fact that we're debating who's going to be the first P4 coach fired, it feels like there's not going to be a lot of P4 jobs open, quite frankly. And so,
no,
like, if you're Maryland, you have a chance to really like make a hire that can change your program. Like, there's going to be programs that would love, like, next year would probably love to have a coordinator that you could hire this cycle because you're going to be the big fish in a little pond. So, like, I do think that Loxley, I think the Maryland administration knows that too. And so like I do think that because of that reason, Loxley is in a position where if he like underperforms even more so than he already has with the Terps, like I think we could see the Maryland administration kind of read the market and realize this is a really advantageous spot for them to fire Loxley and try to upgrade in a big way.
It's the sleeping giant in the Big Ten. It's the same thing. It's like Arizona State was a sleeping giant, and it's the same sort of thing. Because Maryland, you've got Kevin Plank, you've got Under Armour there, you have the uh, the really good high school football in the region.
Yeah,
Penn
in the
State,
DMV. Yeah.
yeah, Penn State, Rutgers kind of take from there as well. So does Vautech, a little bit of the North Carolina schools as well. But like you have opportunities there, and at that point, you get out ahead of the cycle. I mean, like, okay, maybe we see if Will Stein wants to come here because he's not going
Yeah.
to go to Louisville. Maybe you see if Andy Koldnicki wants the job. Maybe I don't know about Todd Monken. Todd Monken, I think is going to get an NFL job just because there's going to be so many
Honestly,
teams.
yeah.
Yeah, I think he's going to go to the Jags. I think that's where he's going to coach.
Poor never mind. I won't say what I was about to say, but that's unfortunate for Todd.
Well, I mean, like the only other jobs he'd probably get would be like the Bears or the Browns, and at that point,
Also poor Todd if that happens. So yeah.
Bobby Sloak's gonna put the best job because Ben Johnson's gonna be a moron and go to Chicago.
Yep. I mean, I can tell you where I want Ben Johnson to go, but he's smart enough to not go there. So yeah.
Nah, nah, nah. You're gonna end up having Kellen. You're gonna end up having Kellen Moore.
No, we're gonna end up with Bill Belichick, and it's gonna be the worst thing that could ever possibly happen. I was actually talking about this with our coworker yesterday, Winston Wilcox, and in our one-on-one, and I was like, Bill Belichick's already being connected to the Cowboys. I cannot think of a worse situation than Jerry Jones and Bill Belichick clashing heads. Like that seems like it's just headed for abject disaster.
I can think of one worse. It almost happened. Him and Arthur Blank. Yeah, that would have been a grease
Yeah,
fire. That would have
100%.
been that'd be so bad. Just too many years of experience.
It's the Lions Club out here, not exactly running my football team the way I want it be run to want it to be ran.
God, that's good. The Elks Lodge. But so you think it's Loxley? I think it's Gus Malzahn. I think there's actually a chance it could be Matt Rule too.
I like that. I think that could
Because
make a lot of sense.
because if you lose out at that point, you would have gone from 5-1 to 5-7. This would include losses to Wisconsin, who just fired Phil Longo, and Luke Fickle's got to make the right hire there. It's not going to work, and they're going to get rid of him, unfortunately,
Yeah,
because it's just
100%.
he's trying to put a square peg in a round hole. I don't know. I don't know. Luke Fickle maybe just reset. Maybe go to Ohio State. Maybe just take over for Ryan Day. Just do it.
Ryan Day after he loses to Michigan, yeah.
And then because at that point you will have lost to and then you would lose to Iowa, who's Stockholm syndrome as well. Another year where you thought you were going to go bowling. You still haven't. You're 5-7. Also, the fact that Troy Dannon didn't hire you. That was a Trev Alberts hire.
Yeah,
And Matt Rule sucks all the air out of the room. If Matt Rule's the type of person where if you're locked into like a vacuum in space, like you only have 1 hour of oxygen to live, he's the guy over there sucking up all the air. If someone's drowning, he's pushing his head down so he can be up. That's Matt Rule.
100%. No, I mean that's Matt Rule to a T. And I do think that Matt Rule probably doesn't have a chance to be the first head coach fired, quite frankly. But like I do think like there is a legitimate chance. And I think it also like I've been considering this more recently just because of the Billy Napier of it all. Like, you can't risk losing DJ Lagway, so you kind of have to keep Billy Napier around. And I mean, Napier's earned it, I think, in his own right anyway. But like, I do think that like, even if it was in consideration, he would probably still be staying because of you want to keep DJ Lagway, you want to keep this recruiting class that he's putting together. Same with Brian Kelly at LSU. LSU could find that buyout money. I have no doubts about that. I don't think the buyout's hindering them from doing anything. Losing Bryce Underwood is hindering them from doing anything. If Matt Rule loses Dylan Raiola, what's he there for? It's not winning football games because he's not doing that. So like, if you lose Dylan Raiola, which there is some light buzz that could happen, like that might be what Matt Rule's job is tied to.
2 points, then we'll move on to some games here. So
Yes.
you're thinking about like they got to keep this coach for the quarterback. They didn't do that with Mark Richt and Jacob Eason. They still got him, and then
Yeah.
Jake Fromm actually threw with touch and played with poise and confidence, and actually started
Wasn't
games.
Jacob
And
Eason.
wasn't Jacob Eason. Low key though, Jacob Eason, like I would say it's like obviously people can't like football teams can't join chapters, but like he hung out with my chapter and stuff, and then that was probably the reason why he wasn't good.
And a little too much time not studying the playbook.
No, too much time in the Japanese, I guess. But The yeah, but like so that's my thing is like it doesn't matter if it's all about the player if he wants to go there. And but if Dylan Riley leaves, yeah, I think you're totally right in the realm that they could fire him with Matt Rule. I will say though, there is one name out there that you fire Matt Rule for immediately. That's Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin would
Oh yeah,
go
100%.
because
If
he
he's willing to come to Nebraska, you do it because in the modern era of Lane Kiffin, we've seen literally nothing but success. And frankly, success that continuously like levels up. We've seen Ole Miss level up this year. We watched FAU get good and then level up to like being like one of the best G5 programs under Lane Kiffin. So like we he has I think we don't appreciate enough, or at least like I think you and I do, but like we as a collective college football consciousness, we don't appreciate how much Lane Kiffin has matured and developed as a head coach because this like he's always been a great offensive mind, but I think now he understands how to build a program and like really elevate things, which is what Nebraska needs, obviously.
and the reason why it's Nebraska, okay, he played at Fresno back in the 90s. He's a quarterback. But his dad was a coach. And when he was born, his dad was on the Huskers staff. So
Yeah.
he was born in Omaha, grew up in Lincoln a little bit. A lot of coaches of Kiffin's era and a little bit older hold Nebraska in extreme high regard just
Mhm.
because what they were under Bob Devaney and Tom Osborne forever.
No, and I think the other thing is like if you if you an interesting read on a lot of Lane Kiffin's comments recently would be he might be a little annoyed with the SEC right now. Like you talk look
Yeah,
about him like talking about like avoiding the SEC championship game and things like that. Like there's just been a lot of comments recently where it seems like Lane could I'm not saying he is because there's multiple ways that you can read that. It could just be him speaking his mind, which he is want to do for sure. But like I also think that like if there is something of like kind of planting the seeds of, hey, if you can get me out of the SEC for a job that I would want, I might be interested.
there is one other name that you could also get besides Lane Kiffin that might make me do it, and that's Zach Taylor. Zach Taylor would go back to alma mater. That'd be tasty.
I
That could
don't
be
think
really good.
Zach Taylor's a good coach, so I'm a little dubious of it, but sure.
I don't know. I mean, like Dave Wannstedt was fun when he was at alma mater at Pitt. Like that was
That
cool.
fair,
So,
fair. No,
you know,
100%. I mean,
you
I'd like to
know.
see it, but I just like, and maybe he's a better college coach than he is an NFL head coach. But when I have Jamar Chase after the game, like being like, I don't know, that's Zach's job. Ask him. Like, I don't think that's a guy I want running my program.
And when Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow, and Zach Taylor are somewhere in Cambodia and they see something out there over the field, it's like, can you go check out that mine? And then Zach Taylor goes, it's a trap.
It's a trap game, baby.
Yes, the Admiral Akbar's trap game of the week. This is going to be a lot of fun because it's going to involve the same team picked last week. Again, going Grim Reaper style. That would be Kansas playing Colorado. Colorado needs to be very careful.
Yeah, 100%. Like this again, don't look at the record next to Kansas's name. Look at what Kansas has done over the last like 3 to 4 weeks, or 3 to 4 games, I should say. But like this is the Kansas team we thought we were going to see. This is the Kansas team we thought was going to compete atop the Big 12. We're seeing them play like that right now. I will say, like, staying up and watching that BYU game, Kansas didn't play its best game, quite frankly. They got opportunistic, like some of the things we talked about, like forced some good turnovers, got some key stops for turnovers on downs, had the pooch punt that hit the BYU player and then they recovered inside the 5. Like had a lot of fortunate bounces that went their way, but they were in the position because they're playing so well to be able to do that. Best game I've seen the Kansas defense play in a long time, quite frankly. That was a low scoring game, which I don't think we expected it to be. Now you come into this Colorado game, and like, I do think that the thing that stands out to me when you look at, Kansas's reign of terror through the Big 12 has been you handed Iowa State their second loss, you handed BYU their first loss, so why not knock Colorado out of there? Well, you look at where Iowa State was. They were reeling coming off their first loss of the season, and as a team that we had started to realize maybe just didn't have a high ceiling, like a pretty muted ceiling for what Iowa State is capable of. Very high floor as well, but like the ceiling's just not really there. Kansas played to their ceiling and they got the best of Iowa State. You look at this BYU team, kind of like a lesser version of what Miami had been doing. They'd been playing with fire quite a bit. And so they played with fire again and they got burned by Kansas. Now you have a Colorado team who is the opposite end of the spectrum. Early in the season, this was a team that looked kind of basically what we saw at the end of last year. And we're like, oh God, here we go again, where a lot of oxygen is going to be sucked out of the room about Colorado. That a team that's really not going to even factor into the postseason conversation. They've gotten substantially better as the years gone on. They've been trending up and have consistently been trending up. So I guess we're really testing Lance Leipold and Kansas's power because I think this is actually the toughest test for Kansas yet in this run of causing chaos in the Big 12.
Yeah, Colorado's firing on all cylinders. They look to be playing with, I mean, Arizona State's playing with a lot of
Yeah.
firepower as well, but obviously Colorado's just got, they just have more of it. I will say with Iowa State, I've been thinking about this for a while and I'm finally going to verbalize it. I think they're going to be disgustingly good next year. Like, I feel
Oh
like,
yeah, I could
because
absolutely see that.
it'll be Rocco Beck's year three, which I think is probably a big reason why I don't think Matt Campbell is going to leave. Like, unless
Yeah.
Michigan pays him like 15 million a year, like that's not because it's like, am I really going to punt on that? I've got another year of recruitment. I've washed out enough of the people who like to bet, out of the program and everything like that. Iowa State, again, you had them more as like a playoff contender than I did, and there was more in your favor than what I thought. It was like I think the Big 12 was just more chaotic than we expected, and
Yeah.
steady wins, which is Iowa State. I would say with Kansas, look, they got to win out to go to a bowl game, and which requires beating Colorado, which I believe requires winning a Sunflower. I don't know if they played yet. Maybe they have. I don't think they played them.
I don't think so.
So like you need to basically do
No, they
that.
did. They did
Yeah,
play.
they did.
They lost to Kansas State. It was close. That was like when Kansas really started turning on. Was that game?
That's the thing about the Big 12. Like the rivalry games don't make sense. Like it should be like the last week of like I'm expecting Georgia, Georgia Tech. I'm expecting Tennessee, Vanderbilt, Clemson, South
It's
Carolina.
always been that way though, dude. Like we get Red River in the early October every year. Like that's like now it's an SEC game, but like I mean that's it's the way the Big 12's always done it. It doesn't make a lick of sense, but it's the way it's happened.
It's like why can't you just play Baylor TCU at the end of the year? Why can't you get Bedlam? I don't know. It's stupid. Whatever it is. It's dumb. The Big 12 just throws a wrench in everything like that. But I would say with Colorado, I will say there's one thing that leads me to believe that they're going to be okay here. I think there's a lot of self-awareness with the program. I think Deion Sanders and his staff have been like, y'all didn't play that great versus Utah and you won. Utah is really struggling. I understand this is a huge rivalry for both schools, although Colorado may not understand that at that point. That's totally fine. But it's like they kind of know like Kansas and Oklahoma State are not having good years at all. And you
Yeah.
need to be playing with a lot of confidence because when you play BYU or when you play Arizona State or you play Iowa State, you got to be ready. And
Yeah.
so I'm sitting here with this. I do not have this for JLN. I do not believe. I am going to take Colorado. I think Colorado's going to do it.
I do not have it for JLN either, and I also think Colorado's going to do it. I think that when you look at BYU specifically, because I think that's the game that you're probably going to compare this to. Jake Retzlaff has played really well this season. He's also a little reckless, quite frankly. And Shador Sanders is many things. He's not reckless. He's actually pretty damn smart with the football. And like I don't think BYU is going to have any opportunities for a lot. I mean, I'm not even going to call it turnover luck, but like their turnover performance has been pretty huge for them this season. And I don't think that Colorado is or sorry, Kansas turnover. Like that's how they play defense is they're looking for a turnover, and that's what they did to Jake Retzlaff, and like they're going to try to do it Shador, but like the secondary is not exactly an elite coverage unit, and like that's the strength of this Colorado team is the wide receivers and Shador Sanders. So like I think it's a lot of explosive plays, and like we know Kansas is going to score. Kansas is more than capable of that, but like I just think that Jalen Daniels also not afraid to throw the football in harm's way, and you have a lot of guys on Colorado who also kind of play that defense. I think a few turnovers for Kansas probably flip this game. I think the line is like 3.5. I think Colorado wins by double digits again, man. I think this team's kind of looking a little buzzsaw right now in the Big 12.
I'm starting to come around to the idea that he may be QB1. I've been trying to figure out
Yeah,
where he's going to go, trying to match into a head coach. The best I've got right now is he's going to play for Jesse Minter on the Raiders. That's
I
who I,
like that. I mean, that'd be pretty sick. I wouldn't hate that.
because like I think Mike Vrabel's going to take the Giants job, and then he's going
Yeah,
to take probably Milrow. I would figure Milrose seems to be the most.
yeah.
Or if Becker Ewers test really well, because I feel like
I think
Campbell.
Ewers is coming back to school, quite frankly.
Yeah, you think he might
Not
transfer too?
not Texas, but he's coming back to a school for sure.
Beck, he gone.
Oh yeah, Beck's gone. Like, especially but I think Carson Beck's going to be fascinating because if last week against Tennessee is like a stepping stone, and like we see that Carson Beck for the two remaining games in the regular season and in the playoff, his stock's going to skyrocket again
Yeah.
because like that version of Carson Beck is absolutely a first round quarterback. We haven't seen it all year, and there's going to be a lot of questions that he has to answer for sure. But like that guy's going to get taken in the first round if he bounces back.
Put it with Monken on the Browns. Just do it.
That'd be kind of sick, honestly. Monken's a dude, man. He deserves a shot.
Yeah. Try to think. Maybe kick Trevor Lawrence to the curb. Just he goes to Jacksonville. He goes home, baby. Let's go.
Trade Trevor Lawrence to the Browns. Draft Carson Beck. Here we go.
You win. You're gonna win more games that way because that guy's got dog in him. And I don't know if this guy's got any dog in him, but he found some quarters under a bridge. Yes, we're gonna go with some Antonio Banderas ball of the week.
You know he's got some bulldog in him. Come on now.
Yes, he does. So last week we went to Los Angeles for Nebraska at USC. So we get there in the car. We go under the bridge because that's what Bronco Mendenhall told us to do. Matt Rule came out of the bridge wearing some magenta pants, a green shirt, and like a mesh top, and he says, looks like a hot dog cart in here.
God almighty.
And then the other Antonio came in the back when was trying to like look at Antonio, and all Antonio had was money. And he tried to roll the window down, and I smacked his hand before he could do it.
And he said, Bulldog? And like, he's just trying to help out a friend, not realizing that that was not a friend.
That was a threat. Uh, and then so we went out there, we are trying to figure out who's going to win this game. So we asked Lincoln Riley, who was also there, like, how good are you at playing Carhood quarters? And Matt Rule says he was the best, and he missed all of them in the row, doing about as well as Nebraska did.
Yeah, but I mean, it's Matt Rule. Like, you have to believe him when he says he was the best, because what other evidence do we have?
I think the reason why USC won that game is because I saw Lincoln Riley fight really hard for that quarter that bounced off the hood.
100%. He's like, I'm about to be out of a job, so let me go grab this quarter. I might need it. Oh my
Yes,
gosh.
the best part about being under the bridge was like we had the stereo blasting, and Antonio was like, "Under the bridge, Bulldog."
Bulldog.
So we actually had to hang out there and tailgate, which was a really uncomfortable situation for all of us involved.
Oh yeah.
You didn't get out of the car once.
No, absolutely not. I stayed in there and like you were like, hey Cody, do you want to play the food? And I was like, absolutely not. I'm not eating that. I refuse.
And then something happened that we can't talk about, but Antonio was running away like his cousin Anthony Kiedis under the bridge downtown, running like this when he, just doing this, and then we saw those people there playing for the Trojans, on the practice squad fielding punts.
Building punts, man.
But yeah, I'm really glad we got out of there, man. I blacked out so many things from that show, from that experience.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, unlike the Red Hot Chili Peppers, I have no desire to ever go back to California after that. I can assure you. I'm sure we will have to, but as of right now, no shot.
By the way, I tried to say I'm sorry for Antonio for going there, and he just said Bulldog.
He said Bulldog, and then he said, "Get me a burning couch."
Yes, that's right. We are going to Morgantown, West Virginia for UCF versus West Virginia. One of these two coaches is going to get fired, and Antonio likes to party, and he he relates to Pat McAfee. They operate on the same wavelength. They can just communicate with eyes, and he hopes he's going to be there. I'm like, nah, dude, I think he's going to be like I think he's going to be in Columbus, but that's okay.
Have you ever seen? You're not a big How I Met Your Mother guy, right?
I've watched it before. I think Ted Mosby is the worst thing to happen to television of all time, and then second would be what Pam Beasley from The Office, but everybody else, yeah. I do like certain aspects of How I Met Your Mother. I know how it ended. I watched it all, and because
Okay.
also because my roommate thought he was Marshall.
Every guy thinks they're Marshall. They want to be Marshall. Most likely they're Ted. But
No, dude, I'm
no,
Barney, man.
Well, yeah, look, some self-aware people in this world. I think I'm Ranjit, but anyway, hello. But the scenes where like Lily and Marshall will like telepathically talk to each other. That's Antonio and Pat McAfee. However, I've listened in on those conversations, and it's just them bulldog, and then McAfee's like, "Oh yeah, bulldog brother." Like they are absolutely on the same wavelength. It's one just like Red Bull brain cell floating around in their brains.
Yes, then we saw that. I saw that couch that's covered in moonshine,
Yeah.
brought up there by AJ Hawk's mangled fingers. And I told Antonio that like I don't think they can burn the couch on a Milan Polskar Stadium, but like you can try. And he's like, "Yes, bulldog."
See.
The other thing that I think what I didn't realize is the reason we went to LA was to practice with the bouncing quarters because at Mountaineers games they just throw batteries and nickels at you.
100%. Yeah, it was actually just a target practice, and I'm afraid the Gus Bus might get pelted with some nickels and batteries in this game.
Come on, boys, let's go, boys, let's go.
You think he's dancing? He's actually just dodging.
You can't touch this. Uh, these are all the dancers my granddad should be.
That's right. I actually don't want to know about the dancers his granddad showed him. I'll tell you that.
Well, that game's going to be a pocket of Little Miss Sunshine, I'll tell you that much. Where are you leaning with this game between UCF and West Virginia?
Brother, this is a tough one. I have no idea. I don't think either of these teams are that good, quite frankly. I I wonder if I wonder if last week's Baylor loss is kind of a little bit of a quit watch for West Virginia. And I'm not saying like a full blown like they just mail it in completely, but like I just worry. I wonder if it's like the players understanding that we need a change, that we want to get through this. And so like I will say something that was floated to me or that I saw floated on the internet. Neil Brown's a UMass grad. And there I think it's something we could potentially write for fansided.com, but like Neil Brown is a UMass grad. That can make this a little bit of a cleaner break. Like just kind of usher him, be like, hey, we don't want the optics to be bad, but we kind of know we need to change. Like take a job at alma mater. Just and let us like hit the reset button here in West Virginia. So like I wonder if some of that may be percolating because like I don't think that gets mentioned if it's not a real possibility because that is such a step down. So like I wonder if like I think I'm gonna lean UCF here, but I don't feel good about it at all.
Antonio went up to me. He's like, Coach Brown, Bulldog, UMass. Okay, bye.
Okay,
So,
bye.
so I could see that. I think he initially played at Kentucky for Mike Leach and then transferred to UMass, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
That's his career trajectory there. But yeah, I don't hit that. I think that could be a good, a really good backwards lateral for Neil Brown to go back and win 10 games at a non-power four school. I am going to take West Virginia here because I want to draw this thing out further. I want to have Gus Malzahn, not Gus Malzahn. I want to see if Gus Malzahn does get fired, like I said he would. I want to see.
Yeah.
I want to delay the inevitable. Where like we have Pete Thamel going on. He says, "Yeah, Jimbo Fisher is in the parking lot here, and Ren Baker and him just had dinner last year, like 2 years ago." He's like, "Yeah, they just fired Shane Lyons," and I'm just like, "What?"
What do you
He's so
mean?
They're showing a picture of Neil Brown and his kid wearing WVU gears. Yeah, they just fired Shane Lyons. It's like it's burned into my brain. I'm like, this is not good for that man. That family man is gonna have to go to
Jimbo
past.
Fisher's just standing outside the administration building like John Cusack and say anything, playing
Yeah.
country roads instead of Peter Gabriel.
He goes on the field like that really annoying Stanford fan.
Yeah.
Jim Harbaugh did not see the irony there. And Christian McCaffrey goes, he's like, I don't think football's trying to sell you food.
Jim Harbaugh doesn't understand irony. I'm thoroughly convinced of that.
He and Pat McAfee have had, and Antonio have had exactly the same amount of awkward moments in their entire life.
That's right. It's only awkward if you make it awkward.
So, but as we part of move on here, Antonio's actually never had moonshine before, and he asked me
Mhm.
what it tastes like, and I said it tastes just like Novocaine.
Feels just like Novocaine too.
Yes, we're gonna do the Temptations today. I wish I could have dropped that in here a little bit more in the show. You ever watch the movie starring like Flex Alexander, I think, or whatever it was? Is like Otis Williams, cousin
Let's see.
Otis.
Was it the one that was like a VH1 like special?
Yeah,
Okay, then
yeah.
yes, I have 100%. It's got the I can't remember his name. The dude who plays David Ruffin is the same dude that plays the main character in Cool Runnings.
Oh yeah, he plays Tariq. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the movie was like you're either making cars or you're making music, and there's no in between here in Detroit.
That's right.
They kicked that one guy out of the group because he wanted to hang out with girls. Like, no, we're doing some Motown.
We're singing, man. We're not dealing with hanging out with girls.
Why would you want to do that? This is stupid. Uh, I do love me some Motown. I used to run to Motown all the time. Motown's awesome. I love that
Oh,
stuff.
absolutely, dude. The Temptation slapped so hard. Like, it was pretty easy to find what 6 songs we're gonna do, but I was just like, I now need to go listen to some Temptations after like thinking about this for sure.
You do realize when we ever have Winston Wilcox in the show, we're doing Sam Cooke.
Oh,
JLS.
absolutely.
My favorite Motown group is the Supremes. I love the Supremes. That's my favorite.
Ooh, Supremes are a good one, man. That's a good call.
Smokey Robinson. Yeah.
Smokey Robinson.
Little Willie, little Stevie Wonder. Yeah, he's got some stuff.
Oh, he's got some stuff, and he can see according to popular conspiracy theories.
You know when Stevie Wonder can see, he says, "Get ready, because here I come." Who do you have for that game? Get ready. I love that's it's probably my favorite song by them.
It's a damn good one. I went with the big fish. Indiana, Ohio State, right off the gate, right out of the gate. I think that look, man, I have said that I think Ohio State is being considered infallible in this game, and I do not think that they are. I think that they need to be prepared. I think they need to be ready. I think one thing that's not being like looked at quite enough is like, yes, obviously Brian Day and everyone in the Ohio State building knows this is a big game, but it's also a little bit of a trap spot because you have the Michigan game, and like, let's be honest, yes, you need to beat Indiana for your college football playoff hopes. For your job, you need to beat Michigan. Like, if you lose this game, you're not going to lose your job. If you lose to Michigan, you're losing your job if you're Ryan Day. So, like, that's something that's been like percolating in my mind a little bit. Then we see, like, we already knew that the tackle situation at Ohio State was not particularly great. We saw the offensive line look better against Purdue and Northwestern, which is a Purdue and Northwestern thing, and not at
Right.
all. Like, Indiana is an upgrade pretty substantially from that. They have a really good pass rush, a really good defensive front. And then you get the news this week that Chase McLaughlin is out for this game, out for the rest of the season. I'm not saying I'm going to pick Ohio State. I think it is by a razor thin margin. I think they win this game by a field goal. I think that they are sweating this entire thing. But I also think the flip side of that is Indiana, if they lose by only a field goal, I think they pretty much lock themselves into a playoff spot.
I have this game coming up here in a little bit. I'm kind of feeling similar ways that you are. I'll unpack that here in a little bit. But I will say that Lee Corso could coach the Hoosiers and they'll beat Purdue. So
Yeah, 100%. Yes.
so get ready for me is BYU at Arizona State because look out, here comes our boy Kenny D.
That's right, baby.
Forking baby. Yeah. Sun Devils will
Oh
win.
yeah. I have that game coming, so I will refrain.
How do you do the way the things that you do, the way you do the things you do?
That's Army-Notre Dame, and Notre Dame's asking that question, wondering how Army does the things they do, running the triple. Because I wonder the same thing sometimes as well. Uh, I I think we still got to go Notre Dame here. Like I think again I've said this before and I'll say it again. I think Army puts up a much better effort than what Navy did in this game against Notre Dame. I think that Army is able to score a little bit. If you're looking at betting markets, I like the over. I think that's probably a pretty safe play, even in a game where Service Academy is going to be running the ball. But like, I don't think Army's going to turn the ball over as much as Navy did. But I do think Notre Dame's just going to out talent them, man. Like at a certain point, like they have a different body type that Army does not.
I have the same game here, and I've
Hell
got,
yeah.
I'm of the belief that Marcus Freeman and Jeff Monken could have been anything that they wanted to, as far as I can tell, but the way they do the things they do, they're coaching at Army and Notre Dame, and give
Hell
me
yeah.
the Irish.
Yeah. Got to be the Irish.
And okay, my brain, that was the wrong tab. Okay. Who ain't too proud to beg? Because I know you want to leave me, but I refuse to let you go.
Uh, well, both teams on this side ain't too proud to beg. Brian Kelly's not too proud to beg, and Diego Pavia is not too proud to beg because he wants that extra year from going to the JUCO. So we've got Vandy LSU, Vandy going to Death Valley. Brother, give me the freaking Doors. The Doors are doing it again. They're going on the road and they're knocking off an LSU team that, frankly, I don't think wants to be playing football at this point. LSU season's over. What are they playing for right now? You can't make the SEC championship game. You can't make it to the college football playoff. We saw Brian Kelly turning purple again, yelling at his players on the sidelines. Like, I think this team is done with him. I think Garrett Nussmeier doesn't look healthy. You know who is healthy? The live dog,
Oh, I've
Diego Pavia.
yes.
Another upset under his belt.
I've got that game coming up a little bit later, and he's calling Baton Rouge.
Oh, yeah.
Ain't too proud to beg for me is Penn State at Minnesota. It's because like I know you want James Franklin and PJ Fleck to lead, but they refuse to let you go. They'll beg for your sympathy. And I think PJ Fleck is going to be begging to be ranked, and I think James Franklin's going to be begging to not fired. I've got the Gophers winning this one in an upset.
Ooh, spicy. I do not have this one. I'm gonna go against you. I'm gonna go Penn State because I until I'm proven wrong, I'm gonna stand by my corollary that if Penn State's better than you, they're going to win. They don't get upset. They just lose games that they could pull off an upset.
That's upsetting. I'm just trying to like do this. At the end of the day, James Franklin is gonna try to make you love me. Who do you have for that, Gasol?
I'm Billy Napier's trying to make this the city of Gainesville love him, and I've got Ole Miss, Florida in this one. Uh, Kind of a sneaky trap game we've got here. Florida with DJ Lagway does look pretty motivated, I would say. Like what they did against LSU last week was pretty impressive in the swamp. And Ole Miss, despite what we saw against Georgia, we know they have a little bit of variance to them. We know they have a little bit of letdown. I mean, you don't lose to Kentucky if you don't have that in your DNA. I'm gonna go with Ole Miss to avoid the upset, but this is a result that could really throw a wrench into the college football playoff conversation.
Totally, it makes Georgia look better, and Ole Miss. Well, it makes Georgia look better and worse at the same time. God, I hate
Yep.
this.
It's
I don't
tough,
have,
man.
I don't have that game, but give me the Rebels there. I'm gonna make you love me. This is where I've got Indiana at Ohio State because they're
Oh,
gonna make the
baby.
college football playoff. Love them either way. I just feel like that everyone's like, oh, SEC bias. I'm like, this is just some Big Ten nonsense right here. Like they're
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
they're gonna be like, Indiana's like, we only lost by 10. You gotta let us come to your birthday party.
We'll bring a good gift. We'll bring an ice cream cake
I only pooped on the floor in your mom's bedroom. It's
once.
okay. Once that she knows about. But yeah, give me the Buckeyes, Ohio State.
Okay. You think it's close though?
No, I think
Okay. Okay.
I kind of feel that like there's just too many guys there in Ohio State, and I think that they probably win by like 21 points. I could be
Okay.
wrong though. I've been wrong a
Hey,
lot.
no, absolutely. I mean, like the talent of Ohio State does say that that is very much in the cards.
I will say though, losing Seth McLaughlin for the year is bad. Also, all I can remember his last two seasons have ended horribly. Getting hurt and then snapping the ball like a hockey puck on the foot, like he's Mike Person plays in it for the Falcons. Just a sad bag of crap.
Did I call
It's
him
a-
Chase McLaughlin? Isn't that the kicker in the NFL?
yeah, it's
My
fine.
bad. My fault, Seth. My bad, man.
Oh, he's gonna take his ball and go home. But I don't have a ball. I just have my imagination. Who do you have for just my imagination?
Oh, we know Kenny D is out there imagining what could happen in Tempe
Yeah.
if they knock off BYU this week. I'm going with the Sun Devils too, man. Forks up. Like this team, I think BYU. I think BYU is just kind of realizing its own mortality, for lack of a better way to phrase that. But like, I think that the wheels are kind of coming off. Like, you had a great season, and like, I just think that Arizona State, again, much like Colorado, is just playing like a better team than BYU right now. And so, like, I'm going in Tempe. Like, I think this game not being in Provo is huge for the Sun Devils. And so, like, I think that Kenny D gets him another win and probably punches his ticket into the Big 12 championship game.
PDD. You're an animal, man.
An absolute Animal.
Drink this in 3 seconds, or you can be our friend.
That's right.
This is what I have for Vanderbilt LSU, and
Okay.
it's just my imagination running away with me with what I want to have happen. And I was going to be practical, but nah, give me Vanderbilt and the live dog.
That's
Let's
right,
go.
baby. No practicality necessary.
No, I think I picked LSU initially, but then like I saw them lose. I'm like, nah, not Vanderbilt's better than them.
No, I
Vanderbilt's
can't be
better.
doing that.
And our last song, Papa was a Rolling Stone. Who do you got for that game?
Oh, you better believe I have the ACC Network Extra Game of the Week. Charleston Southern at Florida State. Battle of one-win teams here. Someone's gonna win their second game, brother. I'm gonna go Florida State. Papa was Rolling Stone. That's Mike Norvell because he's gonna take a lot of heat for if they lose this game. But hey, shouts to getting your second win, Seminoles. You beat Charleston Southern.
Well, I go 10-2 when you can go 2-10 and then not go anywhere. That's how
That's
you keep
right.
your job. Life's about not working hard. Life's about blaming other people for your problems and firing them if you can. And having birthday parties where people who show up there they don't you don't even know, like because you
That's
find your
right.
friends.
That's right.
Try not to swear here. So yeah, my last one here for Papa was a Rolling Stone. Give me the Battle of Los Angeles between USC
hmm
and UCLA because Lincoln Riley is a Rolling Stone and Chip Kelly left Deshaun Foster out to dry. He went for a pack of cigarettes and never came home. That's what happened there.
100%.
And because I'm me, I'm never going to pick Lincoln Riley to win another game at USC. Give me the Bruins, man.
I'm gonna go with the Bruins as well on this one. UCLA
Yeah.
is not a team that I want to be playing right now. USC is definitely a team I want to be playing right now. So I'll go with the Bruins with you.
I mean, that's why we saw USC and Nebraska under the bridge there.
Dude, as someone who in for Stacking the Box college football show picked Nebraska to upset USC as my upset pick of the week. Let me tell you that I've never been more frustrated watching a football team than watching the Dana Holgerson version of Nebraska's offense.
Dude, his hair was like falling off to the other side like Burt McCracken.
Did you see did you see his quote about why he came back to coach Nebraska's offense?
Tired of drinking beers by myself. No, what do you say?
I mean, essentially, he said, I got bored. That's why he started coaching for Nebraska.
What does Marcus Satterfield know?
I don't know, dude. I really
Not, not
don't.
football, but not football, but he knows something. And this was episode 128 of False Start. You can follow me, John Buhler, on Twitter or the X at Buhler118. You can follow Cody Williams at the Sizzle20. Like, rate, listen, subscribe, review on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, anywhere this podcast. Follow us on CFB False Start on Twitter. The hand's coming up. I've been starting to incorporate this in the show too. It's been great. Yeah, the gauntlet, just like
Fine,
don't
I'll do it myself.
don't bite the hand that feeds. But we will do that when we do Nine Inch Nails at some point. That's going to be an off-season jail in for sure.
Oh, for sure. Maybe do it. Maybe do that. I actually, you know what? Nine Inch Nails is like a coaching carousel reaction JLN. That could be good. I like that.
Yeah, so for what we have but for the rest of the season, so just for y'all to know it, Jalen. So we did the Temptations today. Next week with rivalry week, we're also going to be going to Iowa, Nebraska for some cornucopia. So we're obviously doing some corn.
Corn with a K, baby. Let's go.
I don't even think we really like corn. We just like the idea of corn.
Yeah, no, not
Not even
corn.
the idea.
Corn does not get many listens on the Spotify, I can assure you.
No, Cody's coming undone about that. And then when we're doing the conference championship week, we'll do a thing that gets a lot of listens on Spotify. That'd be Counting Crows.
Oh, absolutely. They do get a lot of listens from me. A big Counting Crows guy.
And we talked about this off air. So there'll only be 9 games that week. So one of them will be Admiral Akbar, one of them will be Antonio. And there's 6 for Counting Crows for JLN. But we've got non-core.
Oh yeah. We're pulling Adam Derwitz back out on stage and making him perform one more. Our favorite, to be precise.
uh, he's accidentally in love.
Dude, I know that's a Shrek 2 song. The song's a banger. I don't even care. It's so good.
Somewhere in America, Peyton Manning is screaming, Omaha, Omaha, Omaha. And this is false start.